But how can you not feel something inside? Like if you don't feel
That's what she said. Sorry.
I'm just gonna keep on
You
rolling.
be Carl Sagan and I'll be fucking Robin Williams here. Just seeing a starry sky can be both relaxing and like anxiety riddled.
And eventually we're gonna get sucked into there. Well, you and I probably won't. We'll be long dead before that happens, but
or brains in a jar, and we'll be like, shit, you remember way back in season 4?
Okay, so this is a B-side KSM episode that we're just kind of ad hocing.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
So I was thinking we should talk about eugenics. Like are there merits to and the word eugenics is really loaded, but like really all it is like selectively breeding for a trait you want.
Well, I mean, it can be
in varying degrees of severity and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
no,
like
okay,
not always about cloning or like
there are people who believe in the eugenics circles who believe in like actually killing people who don't.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like and I'm not talking about that. I'm thinking more in a constructive sense.
So you're saying like people
like screening for disease and trying to fix it, sort of things. Is that like augmenting people?
Okay, well, in that context, like if it's constructive, I wouldn't call it eugenics. I would call it like animal husbandry, I guess, for humans.
I mean, they're
yeah,
6 of one, half a dozen of the other, though. Like,
well, names are important. Like having a term for a thing is important to distinguish one thing from another.
But like I said, eugenics is loaded. Like if you think about what it means, it's just new genetics. Literally, that's what it means.
Well, but in practice,
sounds good.
It does sound good, but so does stuff from like Nazi Germany on paper sound good. But in practice, it's very different. In the practitioners of eugenics, classical eugenics, let's say, like the early 1900s. Well, yeah, early 1900s eugenics, like they were all about like the creating superior people and killing off the lessers in one way or another, or not allowing them to breed, right? And now I do have a problem in that, like, who determines what is the right way to be and what is the wrong way? Because these people are self-proclaimed experts. Like they're not. They don't have any ground to stand on when it comes to like what is the better human and what is the lesser human.
I mean, eugenics should be a consent-based thing. Like it should be something that we have access to, affordable access to, but also not like make it compulsory. You know, like if you just want to like be a naturopathic breeder, fine,
more
like,
power
no
to
big deal. Yeah. Like and could that lead to an evolutionary branching? Sure. But like and way out there.
Well, and maybe that's a good thing. Like diversity is like it is like strengthens species.
Yeah.
Now, no, I get what you're saying too. Like, and maybe using the term eugenics, like you said, it's kind of loaded. It carries a lot of.
And that's because of technology, right? Like we didn't have a way to be constructive.
It's also because of history too. Like people remember, there are still people alive today that remember the eugenics programs of the past. And, in a way, some of those programs still exist now in one form or another. Now, I get what you're saying, though. Using our technology, our information, our experience to craft a better person, not a better person in terms of some subjective kind of thing, but an objective thing, like more resilient against diseases, less inclined to have the kind of failures that we have as human beings. Because we do now understand a lot about genetics. We understand a lot. Like the human genome is completely mapped mostly now. Like we know a lot and we can actually diddle with that. And so sure, if you're a parent or a hopeful parent who wants to have a kid, maybe you can like have yourselves analyzed to realize to see if there's like some potential problems that could happen if you have a child and correct them before they even happen, so you don't have babies that have birth defects and problems down the road and stuff. And that I'm okay with that.
Here's what I think people need to reframe their thinking around, like the term eugenics, right? It instills this idea that there's always some nefarious intent behind it and that there's always some nefarious goal. And really, like, the person that is bred to be able to lift the cars off of victims is genetically possibly a clone of the super soldier made to kill people better. Genetically speaking, that could be the same He-Man, but it's all in your intent and how you like raise that person or persons to act and think and behave.
That's a good point. The now, of course,
it's the tool versus the user argument.
Well, yeah, intent is important, but it doesn't excuse the outcomes.
Right. Well, and that's where consent comes in. It's like it's got to be your choice to contribute or not to that.
Well, sure, and the environment, raising people the right way is really important. And yeah, I think humankind has limitless potential. We can be superhuman, essentially, with the technology we have, even today. Which today it's like we look at things and marvel and think, "Oh my God, it's so fantastical!" But it's like, it's early days yet. We're still children when it comes to that. We don't know. We don't know the implications. And I mean, Red Dwarf, that one episode with the I'm trying to remember the name of it, with the transmogrifier device.
Oh yeah. DNA.
Yeah. Oh, I should have known that one. Like there are potential pitfalls that we should be aware of. Like we are fiddling around with stuff that's right on the edge of what we're able to wrangle. And it goes the same with nuclear power and nuclear technology. It's like, yes, there is so much potential. Nuclear power is the future. It is the solution for all of our energy problems. It is the solution for climate change. It, like, literally the only solution for climate change. But at the same time, if we don't tread carefully, well, it could also be some kind of Leviathan that wipes out all life and destroys everything because we're too stupid. We've evolved technologically, but we really haven't sociologically. We're still the same fucking idiots we were 10,000 years ago, fighting wars over bullshit shit and completely myopic like viewpoints and yeah, like we're still religious. Like we haven't gotten over all our religiosity, even though religion isn't a thing. But we found new religion in politics and governments and you name it, social media stuff.
And and you can be spiritual without being religious. Like it's super easy.
Well, that's true. And our society it doesn't really accept that.
In fact, I would probably identify more with spiritual but not religious than full on atheist. Only because like I have to admit what I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know, that's probably a bit of a digression. But.
Well, no, I don't think so. And I mean, we might have had a little bit of beer, but I agree. Like I fit into the same category. To me, I guess the spirituality comes from touching the face of God in mathematics and astrophysics and the scale of the universe and the like just seeing how small we are and how big everything is. And it's like
that's what she said.
But how can you not feel something inside? Like if you don't feel
that's what she said. Sorry.
I'm just gonna keep on
you be Carl Sagan and I'll be fucking Robin Williams here.
Oh, wouldn't that have been a match made in heaven? Like, but all joking aside, like there's so much miraculous stuff in the universe. It is a stunning place to be. And yes, it's full of terrible things, terribleness all over the place. But that's what makes watching a sunrise all that more magnificent. Like when I watch a sunrise over a mountain, like I feel something. There is a spiritual feeling. Like, or if I sit there and lay in some field in the middle of nowhere and stargaze, like just gazing out into the vastness of space and also realizing every one of those stars that I'm looking at has a solar system around it. There could be other life out there, like life that we may never see. It could already be dead. Like whole entire star systems and planets could be completely gone now and we'll never see them, but I'm seeing it right now. And that's an awesome feeling. Awesome in the sense of like awe.
Just seeing a starry sky can be both relaxing and like anxiety riddled. Yeah, well, it just depends on your mood, I guess. Like
okay, yeah. And if you look at the plane of the Milky Way too, realizing when you look at that very dense area, there's a black hole there sucking everything in. And it has been for millions or billions of years. And eventually we're going to get sucked into there. Well, you and I probably won't. We'll be long dead before that happens, but
or brains in a jar, and we'll be like, shit, you remember way back in season 4? And we're all like, ha 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 ha, 14,367 seasons ago.
Yeah, some Futurama stuff. Like, but it really is awe-inspiring, and it does kind of bring a sense of something, and to look out there and see like there is a supermassive black hole right there, Centaurus A, That's where that is. And it's sucking us in right this very moment. And you can't quite see this motion, but we're all traveling very fast, swirling around this drain of the black hole, slowly getting sucked in. And yet, people are arguing over a fucking loaf of bread or some line on a map on Earth, that firing missiles at each other and killing each other over nothing. Like, I'm sorry, I'm about to.
So why not be for eugenics and like try to steer us away from that downward trend?
Well, like, yeah, and okay, I agree, and maybe it's one of those things like with a lot of hot button words or phrases, maybe it's time to kind of like take that back and renew it, refresh it. Like, eugenics doesn't today mean what it did back in, like, say, the 20s or 30s. Like you said, the term is very crystal clear. It's very simple. And it was distorted and grabbed a hold of by people back in the day, ignorant people who wanted to do stuff because a lot of it's very bigoted and the
people that see it as a negative just because of the history is, like I said earlier, the extent of what they could do with the technology available then. There was really no way to be additive to genetics. We didn't even fully understand genetics at that time.
No.
But we knew how to, crossbreed or hybridize, or, like, we knew cropping fundamentals, and we saw that it could apply to biology. And I don't know, like, we hear a lot of stuff like, oh, but think of the life that would have been, because we think of it in extermination ideals. But now you're flipping it on its back, and instead of like killing something for being defective, you fix the defect, and that being gets to keep being.
Yeah. Oh, no, that I'm 100% behind that. Like, we should correct these defects because evolution is not perfect. We're pretty amazing human beings. Well, all life really, frankly, is pretty amazing in its ability to adapt and adjust to the circumstances and overcome seemingly insurmountable hurdles. But it's not perfect. That system is not perfect. It does create deviations and errors, and those things tend to stick. And that's a double-edged sword too. Our technology, our technological development has allowed people who would otherwise not survive to survive. Only just. Well, why not make that particular flaw, be it whatever, like asthma or heart defects or something like that, allergies or something, why not make those things not exist anymore so that everybody can thrive?
Yeah.
Like that, I could totally get behind that. That is a very functional use of our technological advancement. Like, we should be doing that. And if not, why not?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is the argument that, like, adversity creates strength and stuff. Like, yes, that is true. But you can have brains too. You don't need strength if you have enough brains. So why not, like, steer away from the adversity and go towards a more cush lifestyle where we can think our way out of situations instead of fighting out of them?
Well, okay, you are correct. In the animal kingdom, including humans, it isn't the most physically strong being that survives. It's the most cunning. Like,
well, it's a combination, right?
Okay, yeah, you can't be you, you can't have like brittle bones and
Right.
like totally
Be an
survive.
apex predator. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a certain mix
yeah.
end of that, but when it comes down to like what actually survives, it's not simply strength, the alpha male that makes you survive. Like, no, the alpha males are the guys that are coders and hackers and the thinkers and brainiacs. Those are the ones who can like think their way out of a problem that no one else can fight their way out of.
Yeah, well, like I'm a thin-framed guy. I've tried my best to put bulk on and it's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I've had guys that are like way buffer than me, just like naturally, like by drinking a 6-pack every night. They're buffer than me. And they're like, you're the strongest guy I know. Cause like going through cancer and stuff. And I'm like, wow. Like that feels weird to hear, being like a guy like me and equating the word strength with physical strength, right? Which isn't always the case.
Well, maybe you're right. Like, I think strength is not just flexing your muscles and how much weight you can lift and stuff like that. It's like what you can deal with. And
Yeah.
if you think about it, overcoming cancer, like cancer is one of the most insidious things. Like you could be Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the like 70s or 80s or something like that. And you get cancer and it'll fucking take you down. Like you can't punch cancer. Okay,
Right.
okay, Chuck Norris can. but like you can't just like punch your way out of that fight. Like being able to deal with that is a completely different set of tools, a different set of circumstances, and is terrifying to a lot of people. I deal with this all the time. I have nightmares about entropy based things, um, houses falling apart and things, machines corroding, and
I'd argue that's what all nightmares are, just the varying degrees.
yeah. But it. This is what makes good horror movies good, is you having an enemy that you can't see. They don't have a face, they don't have a presence, but it's still there. That's why Event Horizon is such a good horror movie, probably one of the best. I would argue. Like there is the only enemy, the only opponent in that movie is yourself. It
Dude.
yeah. uh, and so being able to tackle these kinds of I guess existential kind of foes like cancer, or Alzheimer's or something like that, it's like, yeah, you could be the buffest, fittest person with the biggest muscles and the fastest fucking car, and you know what, Alzheimer's takes you down.
Yeah.
You're nothing after that. Dementia. Oh my god. I think I recommended a song by the Caretaker, or a is that a song? It's more like a 6 hour long journey down dementia.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you have the stomach for it, you should watch it. Um, I'll
Oof.
I'll look it up really quick, but yeah, it's it's rough, and facing your own mortality. Oh, and another thing too is this, like I was saying before about the scale of things. Like we think we're so advanced and so capable here, but all it takes is one rogue meteorite to come down here and end it all. That that's all it takes. And we
Yeah.
have no defense against that. Like something the size of Rhode Island coming down here and crashing into Earth that will humankind, including everything else, will be extinct, and some other new thing will take hold, and it's probably happened before.
But what are the odds of that happening versus the odds of life forming on any life sustaining atmosphere?
Oh,
I just got to thinking, like, well, what are the odds of life forming? Because that's pretty exceedingly rare, but it's also pretty rare to like get hit by something that big, especially in a solar system like this, where we've got like 7 other big ass planets kind of like in the perimeter at varying levels at certain times of the year, as we've defined it, and all of their gravity and stuff is kind of like our eyelashes. It's like catching all the dust and shit. Like, we're actually probably pretty safe.
Yeah,
for anything like that.
we are like, there isn't a whole lot. Okay, as a human, we should be much more worried about our fellow humans than stuff from space.
Yeah.
And maybe our own human biology. Oh, okay. So the music thing by The Caretaker is called Everywhere at the End of Time. So if anybody wants a trippin' balls kind of thing that you might regret listening to, that's my recommendation. It's all about
what I want to do tonight is listen to something I'll regret.
Well, but it's not bad. Like, it's not a bad thing. It's just, it's really heavy. So, yeah. And I think, having known people and family, family are people too. Family people who have gone through dementia and such things, it really hits hard. Yeah. It's also very difficult to listen to, because it's a rare person indeed who can take a concept and set it to music, where it, like, you don't have to have lyrics, just simply the sound of something tells the story. And that's why I generally write music without lyrics. But yeah. So one concern that I would have, apart from the red dwarf DNA episode, is what about Khan?
Yeah, like, even though it was a fictional character, like the concept is valid. Like, we alluded to the super soldier, and that's kind of something that Hitler was interested in. Like, Khan was made for a purpose, and when that purpose was over, he was discarded like garbage. That's the point where you fucked up. Like I was saying before, like, the super soldier and the guy that is trained to like lift cars off of accident victims are the same genetically. So, like, instead of discarding them, just be like, hey, would you like a new job where you get to help people instead of kill them? And they'd probably be like, okay. Like, and be perfectly nice people that just happen to be super strong. But instead, like if you say, well, we don't need you anymore, like go fuck off.
Sure.
What are you going to get? You know, like
that's a good point. Yeah, they're going to be resentful.
Yeah, so you create your own monster. Like,
oh man, that's very true. No, you're right though that this kind of genetic alteration is multi-purposed, and I take issue with the idea of governments handcrafting super soldiers or tools to do something. It feels very much like we're building cyborgs. Like, oh, they're not really people; they're just machines to do our bidding. Like we've built them, but okay, there are arguments to be made around robots and AIs and things like that, and that's a whole completely different thing. But I do take issue with manipulating genetics of human beings or anything else for somebody else's selfish ends. Like, oh, super soldiers, right? Like, oh, we have to have like state superiority against this other state. Like, oh, those are the bad guys. Oh, the fucking Catholics. They're the problem. We're the Jewish people. We're just, they're wrong. Let's build an army. Okay, no, that's a problem. Like, whoa. Hang on a second.
Well, and the worst part of that is the haste.
Yeah.
Like when you're playing around with genetics, you got to take your time. You got to do a lot of testing. You got to do a lot of thinking because there are so many downstream effects that could go terribly wrong.
Oh, yeah. And like I'd said, we've basically mapped the human genome, but we don't really understand truly the implications of all of those little adjustments.
Yeah.
We're not experts.
We say we map the genome, but I think that's a little bit incorrect. It's more like we mapped our genetics. Like we know what chromosomes do what genes are implicit in what, because they seldom have just like one thing they do.
That's a good point.
So like the genome, I would think is more like a web where, like the episode we did on the connectome, neurologically, what the mind is not just like a bunch of like if this then that arguments. It's a lot of like complicated nuance and connections and pathways and if this then that does apply, but like it's more than that,
Yeah. No, you're right. Okay, so as a biologist speaking to a programmer, computer scientist, like I get it. Like, so DNA to me feels very similar to core elements of procedural generation algorithms, where it's like you can't just change a value and like let's say we'll just make this flower is blue because of this, and now we're going to make it red. We'll just change this value to that. Well, no, it doesn't work that way. It's a procedurally generated thing. And there are implications to that because there's iterations of algorithmic processes that build that. Like it isn't just a kind of like how
algorithm.
Yeah. Oh, that should be the end song for this. It isn't like just simply values you can change and something is different. Like there isn't a stored value for petal color on flowers. it's procedurally generated. And changing this may change all kinds of other things. Oh, geez, I should probably have more beer. But that is one of the problems with like meddling in this. Like, okay, we should meddle. Like, I don't have a problem with humans experimenting and digging into their origins and how they operate. Like, yeah, we absolutely should do that. But it's not so simple as just like, oh, let's change this value, and now this black kid is going to come out white.
Oh, geez.
That's not how that works. And maybe it shouldn't even be that way.
I mean, like, actually, I for a long time, I've thought like you can transplant a lot of things, but you can't transplant race. But what if you could? Like, would you?
Ooh. No.
But that's a personal thing, right? Like, I could just as easily see the argument for like, hell yeah. Like, well, I mean, like, you may not identify with your race. That happens. And that's okay.
But that's an ex post facto thing. Like, you couldn't figure out if you don't identify with your quote race before you're born, or while you're developing. So
no.
And
I'm talking more about like, not in a eugenics way, but like a transplant way.
Okay. All right.
But like, although that's very fantastical. But yeah, I started to see the point you were making there. It's like, you can't predict, you can't predict if your kid's going to be gay, or, like,
and we don't, this is a thing. I guess this is the issue I see with eugenics, in terms of modifying genetics to perfect humans. It isn't like, in the here and now we can see something like, oh, well, we would like things to be this way, and they're not. So we have the capacity to do it. So let's do it. Well, the implications down the line are the things we can't see. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know. Like, and then again, does it even matter? A lot of the things that people care about, do they even matter? Sure, obviously. Correct things like dementia, diseases, cancers, things like that. Yes, we should absolutely be doing that. But there's no middle ground. As soon as you're able to correct cancers and dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that, well, all of a sudden you can like tailor your baby to be whatever you want them to be. And it's like designer babies. Shit, that's going to be a intro thing. But that's the thing. Like, people are so caught up in those things, and I worry that we will reach some kind of singularity, like a homogeneity, where we're so similar, we're almost like clones of each other, because we've slowly crafted things to the point where every baby is the same, because we want them to be perfect. And it's like, okay, wait, actually, one of the awesome things about evolution is errors often yield solutions to things that like we haven't even foreseen, we don't even know are coming. Like, things that we think are bad or detriments to our biology are actually benefits. Like, in Black people, like sickle cell anemia is seen as like a problem, but it's like, well, what if it's not? Like, what if there's a thing coming down the pike that we don't know about, and the only people who survive whatever this is are the people with sickle cell anemia?
Well, you do know that happened, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like malaria.
Yeah.
Like something way prevalent in Africa is nullified by sickle cell anemia.
Yeah. So if we correct that or correct it, like, are we benefiting ourselves as humans, or are we putting ourselves in a dangerous place?
That is an excellent point. I mean, but it's the what if scenario, right? Like you could what if the shit out of anything.
Well, but can you see how, if we had the ability to manipulate our genetics on a finer level, how we'd eventually homogenize ourselves to be one species?
Technically speaking, she would be my sister and couldn't take me as a mate. After much soul searching, I decided, what the hell? I wouldn't tell her.
Giggity. Oh, yeah.
It's a Red Dwarf joke.
Yeah. Well, and since you said it, it won't be demonetized. It's not
a homogenous society. I don't know that it would get that far. That you realize how much that would take.
Well, it would take a lot, but I'm talking over hundreds or thousands of years. That if we had the ability to craft people, that we would start creating designer babies, and we'd be crafting people according to the whims of fashion and whatnot. And eventually we'd whittle things down to the point where we're almost all the same, which is bad. I mean, well, there is a okay, look, there's a reason why the Gros Michel banana is super expensive and hard to find now, because all those bananas were clones of each other, and one disease got into the mix and wiped them out, and bananas almost disappeared from the face of the planet because of that, because everything was so similar. Like, variation and deviation, there are actually benefits that, like, that's an improvement. And I worry, my concern, I guess, is that if we're able to manipulate things down to finer details, like, that we're going to end up that way. We're gonna cut out all of the errors and leave only the best features. And
that's science fiction, though, because it's perfection.
Well, right? No, okay, science fiction is
it can valid. Come true, yes, but like, here's the thing: like, if a homogenous society forms, that's what's evolutionarily superior. Maybe it is the better way. If it's not the better way, something's going to knock it down.
Well, but a homogenous society on the scale of planet Earth cannot happen naturally. It would have to happen artificially. We would have to build it. And that, I guess, is my concern, is that we're going to put ourselves in a place of weakness, but where we're
selection could still knock it down.
Well, okay, ultimately it would. Like, I don't, well, like with the bananas, they're still Gros Michels. Cavendish is still, well, Cavendish is the banana now.
Let's not talk about the banana conspiracy. Let's keep people in the shadows.
But there will be survivors. But the reason there are survivors is because there's another species who was intent on preserving that. We as humans are kind of the apex predators, so to speak, on planet Earth. There's no higher species to protect us. So if we fuck up, Well, we done fucked up big time. So yeah.
Even higher species is a subjective.
Well, okay. I wanted to get into that too.
Yeah. Because like COVID-19 could have wiped out humanity.
Mm-hmm.
It actually could have. Like it's, 2+ years on or whatever. It doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. And it isn't now. Because there's like actual immunity in the population. Not herd immunity, but like enough of it that it's significant.
Well, and also things mutate too. So the Omicron variant is much less deadly because, well, if you're a virus,
it's more virulent, so it spreads better.
Sure,
but at that cost, it's less deadly. Like
we go exactly. Well,
energy in, energy out.
And it's also like business. You don't want to kill your customer, so
right.
So it's it spreads a lot faster, like Burger King's, but you're less likely to die.
Well, if you think of the lifespan of one virus, that one virus will never live long enough to see its host die.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting,
except by chance, of course. Like the virus that are around at the time of death, of course.
Well,
but then, you get what I'm trying to say. Like, their lifespan is so short. Like, most of them, just like us here on this planet, being like, yeah, whatever, like I'll get my car and drive without thinking about what it's contributing. You just don't care, and then eventually it just blows up.
Yeah. Oh man, that's an interesting point, and it brings up the thought of how people don't tend to think of things on a macro or micro level. We think of things from our own perspective, like our own human experience is all we know. And
why should we? Because what we know is what concerns us in the here and now.
Very true. However, underneath us, there is an entire micro world, like an entire micro universe interacting. And above us, there's an entire macro universe interacting.
Well, I mean, and there's like antecedents and stuff like that, but it's like at some point we're going to cease. At some, like, let's say we kill the planet in the next generation. Well, they were going to die at some point. Like, if they just die a horrible death because of a decimated husk of a planet, like, well, okay, I guess that does sound pretty bad.
Yeah, that's pretty morose.
See, people.
Yeah, I get what you're going for there, though.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like there comes a point where you have to say, like, okay, like I'm gonna ride the wave, like the end is close. There's no point in fighting it anymore, but like it takes a while to get to that point, whether it's eugenetically or if that's a word, or environmentally, or like
maybe the whole eugenics process could allow the human race or other species to weather the storm, so to speak.
Exactly.
Modifying ourselves to improve, like, because
actually think about that, evolution, like the potassium iodide thing or whatever. Like it evolves somebody to just like produce a bunch of that.
Yeah.
And they live through the nuclear winter.
Evolution takes time and experience, and we have observational information, so we can put that in. Maybe if we did it intelligently, I don't know that that's possible, because as soon as there is power to do things, people want to seize that power and do things to their own ends.
But that power also reins things in too. Like the way to do that safely and smartly is to take your time and run experiments and this is why it takes like 10 years to put a drug out. Like you want to be damn sure it's doing more good than more harm. Like you want to be really sure. And that takes time. Like for anything, but especially biology, because like we only operate on one clock, really. Like whenever our cells give up, that's when they give up, and we don't get to pick that. So, well, I mean, you can pick that, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh man, that brought up all kinds of different ideas. I guess there's so many things I want to talk about here, but I guess my takeaway is how can you not gaze upon the scale of the universe and the mathematical beauty? And oh yeah, everybody's gonna be like, well, mathematics, there must be a god behind it. It's like, no, the universe works on mathematics. There is no intelligence behind it. Like it's purely based on the structure. But how can you not?
It's binary at the core.
Well, okay, not when it comes to physics, especially when you get into quantum physics. But that's a whole different thing. My point isn't mathematical. It's more like, how can you not look out there, gaze upon all of this, and not be amazed by it, blown away by it, and not feel something in yourself, like some kind of spiritual feeling? Yeah, okay, maybe religions are built upon that, but religions, they don't know shit for the most part. Like they're just kind of making shit up off the top of their head. They wrote a couple of books and they claim to know things, but really, what prediction has ever come true? Name one of them. Like when has that ever happened? But you can still look at a seed planted in the ground and growing into a massive tree. You can look at stars orbiting, black holes and colliding, and galaxies colliding. And like, how can you not be amazed at that and see some kind of I don't know. Sorry,
well, I mean, there's that in there's that feeling in knowledge too. Like, I mean, I struggle with the idea that people don't get some kind of satisfaction from learning something. Like that's a good feeling for me. Like, oh, this is something I know now. This is something I can do now or recall in an analogical sense, like.
Well, for me, yeah, learning and knowing things, but also teaching things.
I drink and I know things.
Well, passing on what you know to somebody else. It like everybody should be doing that. That's something I love about YouTube.
Well, yeah, I was just about to say the Kitchen Sink University. I wish there was like more time in my life to like contribute to that still.
Yeah,
because that was a cool idea, but it was a lot of work.
Yeah, well, we'll come back to that maybe
when we get enough patrons that we don't have to work full time. then we could start KSU again. And maybe we'll get a football team. I don't know.
Which football though?
We'll be the only YouTube channel with its own football team. Kansas City versus kitchen sink microscopy.
It's a worthy project. I like the time will come soon enough. Like we'll be able to do that. I
really do want to. I mean, like what you're kind of getting at is like the next generation, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of our contribution, isn't it?
It is.
Like we don't have kids that we know of, that you know of. I'm pretty damn sure.
Yeah, I probably have a few out there.
I'm not a man slut.
but conveying our experience, like our experiences are unique, and molded us, and maybe certain people don't have access to that. So sharing it is, to me, like one of my greatest exhilarations is sharing what I've learned with other people, teaching people how to do things, how to like hands-on. I just taught my friend today how to solder things, and I love it.
You taught me how to solder.
Yeah.
And I did it on my own once and it worked.
Nice.
Well, it was not pretty, but it worked.
Yeah. Well, that's the point. It doesn't have to look nice. It has to work. Same thing with programming, which I also taught you a little bit about. I still have that fucking game you made, which I love. With what is it, Ainsley, I think?
Oh, the space one.
Yeah. Oh my god. It's so good. And that brings me so much joy to see somebody take like the little bits of knowledge that I've given them and like build something awesome.
Or jam fixer.
Oh yeah. And the bicycle thing, which I made my own. Like, okay, so that was so cool that I made my own. Like, I was like,
that's right. I made like a rudimentary one that was like, like the best I could do with my skill set. And then you were like, oh wait, it could be like this, and it like turned into something pretty cool.
Oh yeah, complete with like running bicyclists and bumping them into trash cans,
oncoming traffic,
and throwing out beer cans and knocking bicyclists
or honking, and they'd be like,
yeah. But that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have shared that with you and you hadn't have done that awesome, really simple game that was so inspirational. Like,
that's some awesome shit. We should have that be like a Patreon extra.
Oh man,
like showing like the evolution of that game.
We should actually do a let's play of that. Well, actually, hey, if you want to see that, down in the comment section, like just say the phrase "let's play," and we get enough of those, and Casey and I are going to play the game. Yeah,
the game.
I think I called it Bike It.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, Bike It.
Yeah. Yeah, that was actually where that came from. Oh my god.
Wow.
We're like an hour in almost.
Yeah, and I don't even think we mentioned, because we didn't know for sure, but this is our 200th episode.
Shit,
that was a damn good one. Like eugenics.
What?
And like the positives and negatives. Like it really is like two sides of a coin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a perfect topic to bring up too for episode 200. Shit.
Yeah, and actually, why not at this point? Like maybe we can recycle a song here and there.
Yeah, I think
because
we can.
Phase Down would be pretty good.
Ooh,
and I think we've used it before, but
yeah, really early. No one's ever seen it, so
I mean, we do have like the dance mix, like its original version that was all like upbeat and like dancey, and then you turned it into this industrial like post-punk thing. Like,
man, this is such a good show. Ugh.
It would be cool to do some episodes like about our music writing process too.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, let us know if you want to see that shit. Maybe I'm full of shit. Tell me if I'm full of shit.
Yeah, like
I'll probably tell you you're full of shit. You're full of shit. I'm not full of shit. You're full of shit.
Swivel on it, punk.
But tell me.
Yeah.
So I can tell you're full of shit.
Okay. All right. Ease off now. Hey, settle down. We don't need to launch nukes. Come on now. Definitely need more beer now. Yeah. Oh shit.
You spill beer again?
No, just sprayed a bit on my keyboard.
That's what she said.
Fortunately, it's mostly on the top. Didn't get under the keys.
Nice. Well,
yeah.
I guess that's a good place to take a piss.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Thanks for sticking it out with us. If you
200 deep sink dives.
200, and that's on top of the minute microscopies too. Man. And the music videos and the other things we've done, the specials.
We need honorary doctorates for sure.
We're definitely doctors at this point. So Dr. Rochfort.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
It is tis has been
doctorate revoked.
Tis has been a good conversation.
Oh.
For tizzle my tis has been.
It's been awesome. And so far it's been awesome 4 years. Looking forward to another 4 years of awesomeness.
And more. Wait, that sounds very Trump.
Yeah, I was thinking like the dude from Toy Story.
Oh.
But yeah, whatever, whatever floats your boat, right?
Yep. Well, Dr. Rosenblatt, all I have to say is Empire Planet, machines in control.